Okay, so this is a Redux of the final exam. I've got the instructions open up here in Firefox, which apparently is the app that likes to open PDFs. There it is. So we've got different sections, 7 point, 5 point, 3 point, and 5 point, like the midterm, which adds up to 20 points. And initialize, which is just get everything kind of working, and then some properties to set, do some data binding, and then do some looping and attribute binding. And then I'm also going to need, I just remembered, I'm going to need to download some files, but you know what? I'll just go ahead. Well, yeah, I'll go ahead and do that now. I'll go ahead and download the files first. Might as well get that out of the way. So let's see. I'm going to classwork, and this is under week 5. Here's the final exam. And I'm going to view instructions, and so I've already got this open, so I just need to download colorartist.zip. And I will put this into my workspace. And oh, really? You're trying to download an HTML? Oh, come on. Didn't realize it would be this difficult to download a zip file. Thank you, Classroom. Okay, here we go. Now I can download it. Okay, there it is. I'll just keep it here in downloads until I need it. In the meantime, I'm going to go into Workspace, and here's where I'm going to initialize the project here. So I'll just make sure that I'm following the instructions. Initialize the view Vite project with npm create Vite at latest. See how I just, like, I give you all the answers here? Right, so I think just about everybody got this part. So I'm going to right click and open this folder up in terminal. This is the workspace folder. And I'm going to do npm create Vite at latest. And the instructions, project name is my last name, final. View framework, a JavaScript variant, just like we did for the project. So this is Bispo final and view and JavaScript. If you chose TypeScript, you'd be in trouble. And then cd Bispo final, change directory to get in there. The critical npm install, which installs all of the node modules and so on. Sometimes it takes a bit. Okay, and then so I'm in Bispo final, and I do npm run dev, so run server in development environment. And again, give it a moment to think about it. There we go. And then let's see, I don't have Chrome open anymore, I don't think. Oh yeah, I do, here it is. So let's see, localhost 5173. There we go. View and Vite, and check it by tapping on the account. Yep, it's working. Okay, cool. So that's not the whole first part. That's only the first 2 questions of the first part. Then I open up view.out file, delete all the boilerplate stuff, and then default export data and mount it. So I will go inside here as workspace, Bispo final, into source, and here's the file that you're looking for, app.view. And I'll just open it up in here. And get rid of the boilerplate stuff. So like that. And then you also have to know, yeah, you can't have the setup stuff on there. That's for importing files and so on. And I'll get rid of all this stuff in the templates, and I'll get rid of the style too. A couple people forgot to get rid of the stuff in the style. I decided not to take off major points for that. I can't remember. I might have taken off like half a point or something for missing the instruction. But basically, you want to start off with something like this. If you leave scoped on here, that's not a problem. It doesn't matter. The scoped attribute. I'm going to save that. And then, of course, if I go back to the browser, it's empty. And at this point, I'm going to bring up the console because any errors that I get are going to get thrown here. You guys may have noticed when you run view like this, it throws errors right onto the page too, which can be kind of helpful. Let's see. Okay, what else do I have to do? Oh yeah, default export data and mounted. So here we go. That goes inside script. Export default. Sorry. And data, which is this guy. And this one is going to be like a return and then an object. So that goes inside of there. So, and then after data, comma, and then mounted. And I'll just do it like that for right now. So save, and then once you've gotten that far, you've gotten done with this first initialized portion of the test, the 7 points. Set properties, 5 points. This is easy peasy, gimme stuff. So create a property named lname, initial value of your own last name. Simple enough. I'm going to put this into the return. This is going to be lname, and I am Bispo. And then a property named course, initial value of IS450 and IS450L, excuse me. IS450 and IS450L. I didn't use the ampersand here because it gets messy with JavaScript. You actually have to do a different entity than what you were used to in HTML. And then a third property named images, initial value of an empty object literal. So the curly braces for the empty object literal. In a couple of cases, you guys did an array literal instead. I don't think I took off any points for that because it'll work fine either way. It doesn't break anything if you do it that way. But this is what I was looking for. Okay, so you get those guys in. Here's those 3 points for you. No, here's those 5 points for you. And then we'll get down to the data binding and set the condition. So add an H1 element to the template. Here's the template. I'm going to set an H1. And then use data binding to add lname to the H1 along with the text final exam. So the data binding is with the double handlebars or double curly braces, lname, and then final exam. And now it is time, something should be happening now, so it's time for me to go to the browser and check it. And there we go, Bispo final exam. The next one here, modify the H1 so it will display only if the course property exists. Course property is right here, and it does exist. It has a value. So let's go ahead and just in the H1, I'm going to do the if directive equals course. All right, so if I go back over here and test it, everything looks the same because course does exist, but you can test it just by going in here and cutting or deleting that content, and then go back to the browser and see, oh yes, the H1 now disappears. And if I put that back in there again, save, and now sometimes you have to refresh, even though it's supposed to refresh for you on save, but there it is. Okay, so now the last bit here, which is the longest bit. Provided files. There's a zip folder containing 3 image files and 1 JSON file. JSON file, blah, 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 should be in source, and the images should be in source assets. Okay, so let's see, where am I here? There's the downloads. And let's see. I guess like a couple of people used like a resources folder in here, which should be fine. Just be aware and be wary of when you're working in a framework like this. Sometimes adding a folder or changing folder names or so on can actually kind of break things. So I think that I'm actually going to put it out in workspaces here. So I've got resources here, and yeah, in fact, I've got some stuff in there already, so I'll just go ahead and put them in there. So here's the zip folder you guys got. I'm going to open that up. Okay, so these guys, I'm going to copy them and go back into Bispo Final and source. And let's paste. So this is where the JSON file is going to wind up. These 3, oh no, wait, let's see. Yeah, this is source. Okay, so, and then 3 images, Chagall, Matisse, and Picasso, are going to go into assets. So I'll take these guys and drag them in there. And there they are. And then colorartist.json, colorsartist.json is out here. Okay, cool. So that's just kind of get things started here, doing this bit, and then I can start earning some points. So within mounted, see, again, I'm telling you exactly what to do, right? Fetch the JSON from colorsartist.json. By the way that I'm doing this is to reinforce the, knowing how to do a fetch call. But one student figured out an alternative that did not involve us coding any fetch at all, so I actually gave extra credit for that. That was pretty cool. But in the meantime, I'll go ahead and do that, just the way we've done it. So inside of mounted, we will do a fetch. And for this one to work, you want to do source. This is basically, it's doing this system of routing from the root directory. So that is out here in Bisco Finals. So whenever you're telling it to look for something, you got to base it off of this root directory. So I have to first tell it to go into the source folder, even though it feels like, wait a minute, this is the app.view file and it's already in the source folder, so why should I have to do that? Well, again, yeah, it's going from the directory name of the root directory. Oops. You don't need the dot. It'll work without the dot, but I've just gotten in the habit of doing that. So fetch, and then what is it called again? Colors-artists.json .then method response. That's a variable that gets tossed into here, and then we will use it with response.json. So we're telling the interpreter to interpret or to parse the JSON file as JSON. It would be nice if we could just give it a .json extension and have like the interpreter know, okay, it's JSON, but it doesn't. You got to tell it. And then .then. A number of you did this instead, where you closed out this whole thing here, so you didn't have one over here, and then did the .then, which I had never seen it that way, and it was kind of surprising to me that like 3 or 4 of you did it, and it seemed to work. But this is the way I've always done it. So response.json.then, and then data. And at this point, you'd probably want to take a look at your actual data and let's see, oh yeah, this is what this stuff is. So I'm going to take colorsartist.json and I'm just going to crack it open here and take a look. And you can see that it is just an object literal here with value properties and values and pairs, and that's it. So you don't have to, like, a few people felt like, oh yeah, I have to do like data dot like images or data dot source or something like that, but there's no source property in here. There's no image property in here. There isn't even something like this, like images colon, and this you did see like on some of our API fetch calls, like it's organized like this, so you actually had to say, oh yeah, this dot images equals images, whatever. But in this case, it's just the empty object and that's it. So all you need to do is say this dot images, and this is the next question, right? Oh no, it's part of this question, this dot images. So this dot images equals data, and that's it. So you don't have to do like data.source or data.images or anything like that, just data, and that's it. And this is probably enough to throw an error of some sort if there is one, and there isn't, so I'll go back over here and continue. Loop through images to render a list of figure elements in the template beneath the H1. Each figure should have a class of colors-artist. So that's down here into the template. So we did the H1 and we haven't looked that down here since, but let's go ahead and do it now. So it's going to be a figure class equals colors-artists. Like so. And in order to get this to loop, we have to use a directive here. So it's going to be figure v4 equals, and then images is what we're looping through here. And the way to do that in Vue is going to be like some variable name. It could be anything. It could be Bob in images, but I think it makes sense to do like image in images. And this by itself should be enough to get us 3 figures appearing on the page. So before trying to get the images themselves in there or anything, I'll pop over here and refresh and just take a look at the elements here. So there's the ID equals app, and there's our 3 figures that we just created. Class equals colors artists, 3 of them, 1 for each of those 3 images. Okay, last bit here. Within the figure, add an image element. Use attribute binding to set the source and alt to the value of each entry in images. Okay, so inside of here, do an image element. And in order to make this work, like you can't just do source equals. If you're trying to pull this variable that's being passed into this loopy thing here, you use the colon, so you're using data binding. So not data binding, I'm sorry, attribute binding. Attribute binding. So colon image, or sorry, colon source equals, and then it tells you what to do, like set it to the value of each entry, which is this guy right here. This is the variable that's being passed in. So colon source equals image, and colon alt, same thing, equals image, because I say to set the same thing for both the source and alt attribute. So if I go over here to the browser, and there we go. I'll close this guy for the moment. There are the three images, red, green, and blue, Matisse, Chagall, and Picasso. And if I now do a right click and inspect and take a look at the alt tag, there it is. So source equals, and there's this string that I gave you for each one of those three items in the JSON file. And then right now the alt is set to the same thing, because that's what I said to do. But then I gave you some extra credit and said instead of setting the alt attribute to the property, to the value of each image, set it to the property name of each image. And if you take a look at the JSON file, you see what I mean. So this is the value that's being called in right now, but this is the property name of each one. And I think it would make sense to have a slightly different alt tag than the source. So let's go ahead and do it. So this is extra credit because I showed it to you once, like real briefly. We put parentheses around this guy, and then a comma inside of there, and then like anything, like again, it could be Bob, it could be index, it could be key. I'll just do I here for index. And several people did like colon key equals whatever, and you don't need to do that stuff. All you need to do is this right here with the parentheses around it, which actually a lot of you got. And then instead of alt equals image, I'll just do alt equals I and leave this one alone. I'll save and go back over here and refresh. The images are still there, but now when I look at the alt is the property name instead of the property value. So here's the Matisse JPEG, alt equals red. Here is the Chagall image, alt green, and then here's the Picasso image, alt blue. Yeah, isn't that a nice picture? I love that painting. And that is it, along with the extra credit. So something I want to clear up for sure, some of you did so well on this that you got like full points plus the extra credit and got like over 20 points if you add them all up. That's great. That's awesome. Unfortunately, when I post the grades for exams, I can't actually give you more than 100%. It doesn't allow me to. And I think that Academic Affairs might have some words for me if I tried. So the most you can get on a test is 100%, but the extra credit is there in case you slip on something here or there and don't get the full points. Then that can bring you up to the full points or bump you up higher than you would have been otherwise. But yeah, you can't get over the 20 points on the test, unfortunately. And yeah, I think that's it. At this point, I stopped counting points. And then, so I did have you zip and submit your entire folder, which you guys all did. I was pleased about that. So you go out here to Workspace and grab your Bispo file and do the whole thing, compress to zip file and so on. But just so you know, like I can't actually open this up on my end. I can't just open up your zip file and then put it open a terminal window in your folder and do npm run dev and have it work. It doesn't work. I don't have the authentication on my machine to open your project and have it run. But what I could do to grade your work is simply grab your app.view and just drop it right into one of my folders. Like if I created an npm create vdit latest and then just get rid of my own app.view and throw yours in there, then I can test your work. And that's what I did because you didn't have to work on anything except for that one app.view file, right? I didn't need to check anything. The only thing I checked outside of this is one, just to look and see, oh yeah, you created a Vite project, cool. And 2, did you put these files where they needed to be? So the JSON file here and then the images files in there. That's where mine were. So if you had yours somewhere else and I dropped your view file into my project and ran it, then it wouldn't work, right? Because it'd be looking for the images and or the JSON file in the wrong place. But that wasn't a big problem with this class. You guys did very well on this test. As a group, you did very well. Very pleased. So, questions? Any questions about anything to do with this, or the course, or the project, or anything? Anything you want. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and take this final view, in light of what I told you about not being able to open up on a different machine. I'm just going to zip up the app.view file and throw it onto the classroom stream for you in case anybody wants to look at it directly so you can compare it to your own work on the final exam. In addition, this will be the last recording that I post. It may only be available to you guys for a couple of days, but it'll be up there if you need it.